Seattle House Mafia. Paulvelocity.
Hey, how's it going? This is Phil from Seattle House Mafia, and
hey, I'm paulvelocity.
Also from Seattle House Mafia. You guys have probably seen some of our mixes. We have some live video from some events we've done, but we're doing a little new thing here, which is going to be artist interviews, getting to know certain artists. And our first one is, you know what? We're going to cut that because I don't want to say first one. But anyway, we'll deal with that in a second.
Leave it in.
Anyway.
Well, we've got our first bloopers reel.
We got our first bloopers reel. But anyway, so our first guest tonight, or our guest tonight, huh?
Thank you.
Guest tonight, Paulvelocity.
Hey. It was free. Sagman's at the back. He said, yeah, because he was free. Comes at the right price, yeah.
So here's the funny thing. Paul, how long have we known each other?
Oh, my goodness.
2 years?
I was going to say 3, but yeah, 2-3 years.
I know nothing about you, is the funny thing about
Paul.
you
know my name.
I know Paul. No, but truthfully,
you know my stage name.
I know your stage name.
Yeah.
And in fact, it wasn't until I actually had to Venmo you that I realized you had a different name. And in fact, in my phone, you're listed as Paulvelocity.
Yeah.
And when I talked to my wife about you and your wife, you are considered the Velocities. So yeah.
Yeah. I still receive like physical like land snail mail with Paulvelocity on it from things.
I love it.
And also that's how my Gmail is set up as well. So first name Paul, last name Velocity.
Makes perfect sense.
And like I'm trying to do like serious, like, because I'm renting out a house in the UK and I'm trying to do like serious correspondence with people. And dear Mr. Velocity, I get. But yeah, it happens.
Perfect. So I think that's a great springboard. So you're not from here, right? Tell me where you're from.
No, I am not. That is good spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what gave it away. So I am originally from a small town called Woking. This is in Surrey, inside of the United Kingdom.
Okay.
Over in little old England.
Gotcha.
I've lived here long enough now. I can say that, little old England. If you're not sure where Woking is, if you are into Formula One at all, it is where McLaren is based.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So how far from, say, London?
Oh, let's say 30 minutes by train.
Okay.
Or I guess about an hour by car. It's hard to measure that way.
And that's where you grew up?
That's, born, bred, raised. That's where I went to my first parties. That's where I was influenced in my musical tastes. And
I was going to ask you about that. It's almost like you're reading my mind. So that's what I was going to ask, because I always think it's interesting to hear kind of the origin story or the event or the person or that one thing that happened that, you're like, oh man, I need to learn more about this scene or this music or whatever. What was that?
So, it's probably one of my favorite stories because it's very organic in how it happened. So I must have been about, I guess, 13, 14 years old. And I'm at what we call high school. And, you have different circles of friends and people that you interact with on a daily basis. And I haven't really found a particular sound that I like musically for any particular genre. I'm listening to all kind of different things that are playing on the radio, influences elsewhere. And there's
when you're saying like top 40 rock, whatever.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And then there's this tape, like you remember the cassette tapes.
I do.
Off of the 80s and the 90s.
I do.
Right? Being passed around. And to give some context on this, what would happen is in the UK, there would be these large warehouse raves, and they would record the audio of the entire night. And there would be like multi-arena warehouses.
Right.
And so you'd have, 40, 50 different DJs playing across different stages,
right,
throughout the whole night. And so when it comes to then reselling that audio, these would come in a multi-tape pack. And it's like this little kind of mini briefcase. You open it up and there's all these kind of, tapes all set out. And you'd have DJ one on one side, the second DJ on the other. And you could go through and... Anyway, so that's the context. So one of these tapes from this tape pack of, I believe it was Dreamscape 12 from Milton Keynes, was being passed around. And, hey, have you heard of this? And, we had Walkmans at the school and we could put them on and listen. And dude, it blew my mind. It's like, what is this music? What is this new kind of weird music that and it was happy hardcore. It was 4-beat. So this would be about, I don't know, let's say 165-ish, give or take 10 beats per minute of I guess this high energy thumping, sped up vocals, big organ stabs, and then just Hoover sounds and drums, and there was a lot of like drum and bass breaks and influences there, and that's really what intrigued me, as well as the fact that there was an MC on this tape pack as well. So not only was this music new, but an MC for the happy hardcore scene in the UK at that time would step up on stage alongside the DJ and be like a hype man for the crowd. They would improvise lyrics on the spot and just get the crowd going, And
you don't want me to move my mic, but
you did it.
We're good. And now I'm so much more comfortable.
And it was just I don't know, just such this explosion of new sounds. Fascinating.
What year are we talking?
Great question.
So you're 13, 14, right?
I mean, yeah, I'd say 13, 14, 15, that kind of. So this would have been mid 90s.
Okay.
Like slap bang mid 90s. Maybe 94 if I had to.
Got it.
As the start of where it began.
And it was already a strong scene though there.
Yeah, so it was already like an underground scene that had, and this is my first introduction into the underground sound. Like these tape packs were not commercially, they weren't widely available. You'd have to go to your local record store, and even then there'd be like a very small supply of it. There'd be
I was going to ask, are these dudes selling this out of their trunks or what? It's all like privately. These guys are pressing these tapes, or
it's slightly one step above that.
Okay.
And definitely several steps behind getting it into like an HMV or a Virgin Records.
Like no distribution or anything like that. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, and it was just exciting. This exciting sound. Loved it.
So you heard that sound, 13 or 14, and then what was it? Was it, I need to experience more of this. I want to be a DJ. I want to create that music. Like, where did it take you?
Yes. Another great question. So, around about that time, you kind of define who your friends are. You kind of define the social circles that you hang around with, and you realize that, for better or for worse, you all generally have the same kind of music tastes. And so, you'd have all the people that like metal music over there. You'd have all the people that liked all the indie stuff over there. You'd have all the EDM crew, all the ravers like myself over here. And it would never be. It was like this unspoken barrier. Like you are these groups, you don't kind of really talk and interact with the people that liked a different taste in music. It sounds so sad to say it now, but that's just how it was back then.
I mean, it's Breakfast Club or whatever. The same thing here in the U.S., right? Yeah. The smokers were in the upper parking lot.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you get those overlapping circles, like the smokers who like the metal and the smokers who like the rave. But you kind of come together in one common thing. And so the circles that I was moving around in, they were also people that, were into the music, into the scene. And they also had a little bit more gusto behind themselves. They're like, I want to be a DJ. I want to be, I want to be up on stage playing the music. That was the vision. I never really felt that strongly. That's something that I wanted to do. Something that I was even more fascinated with was the MC that was talking about. I wanted to know more about it. It fascinated me so much. Like a DJ, yeah, sure, they have a box of records, they're in the spotlight, whatever. But this MC is doing something so unusual and so different and so off the cuff. I really wanted to get involved in that. So what would happen is one of my friends, he bought himself Technics 1210s, and he would buy vinyl, play rave music, and then I'd come along with a microphone. And this is like we go to each other's houses and do this, right. Kind of much like what we do now, and just play music. And I would MC, and we would record it, and we would have this awesome mixtape that we can listen back to and go, wow, that was cool. And we just kept doing that and that again and again. And what happens is, in these circles, as people know that, oh yeah, you've got this DJ equipment. You've got these records. We're having a party. Do you want to come and bring your equipment and records and, play some stuff? Yeah, for sure. And you get invited to house parties, and then you get invited to, small local venues.
Sure.
And then you get, when you eventually become old enough, you get invited to the bars and the clubs, and you're part of the scene. You grow up with this scene, which I think sounds a little cliche, but that's how it was. Like all the people that I think are relatively successful, that we were all around them at the time,
right?
On that scene, and it was just cool to be a part of that.
And so you guys started actually getting booked for these venues, events here and there.
There's a bit of a gap between there and
the
there.
arena show and the
sure.
I get it. Wow, very cool. And so emceeing, and did you stay doing the MC thing for a number of years, or when did you transition into DJing? And now I'm imagining, forgive me if I'm wrong, that velocity came from maybe something vocally that you were doing. Or was that the
maybe.
name? Maybe. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So let's start off with the first part of that. So one of my friends, a guy called Dave Edwards, he was a drum and bass DJ. He's now part of a UK DJ troupe called The Sect, based down in Brighton, I want to say.
Still at it though.
As far as I know, still at it.
That's
and
so good.
and this was. This was before he even, blew up the scene and became, as involved as he is now. I would go and MC events with him. So he would get booked at some of the main clubs. And so I guess he would have been about 18, 19. I would have been about 17-ish. And I got to MC alongside Mickey Finn, who's a massive drum and bass DJ at the time, like Urban Takeover Records,
yep.
right? And yeah, it was blew my mind. It's like, hey, all this stuff that I've done is led up to this event, and I had a great time. It was fantastic. And you're right. So to answer the other part of the question, the velocity part did come from my MC name. I was known as MC Velocity. That's the name that I chose for myself.
Got it.
I found that I was able to be quite quick with coming up with rhymes on the spot. I was kind of good as a hype man for a crowd, and so the name just made a ton of sense. But I did MCing for a fair bit. What really helped out was one of the local events in the area called Club Empire. Now at the time, I would go to this club. This is an under-18s club.
Okay.
Right? And it was held at the Guildford Civic Hall, and they would fully deck it out in visuals, lights, lasers, smoke machines. They turned it into like an under-18s club. It was amazing. And I went there as a punter, as a guest for maybe a year and a half. And the reason I would go is they would have my happy hardcore heroes there. So it would be Slipmat, Dougal, Vibes, all these kind of big UK hardcore named DJs would be there. And when you're that young, there's no way you get to see them because you can't go to like a normal club.
Right.
You can't go to an over 18. Age of consent is 18, by the way, in the UK. So
good to know.
In the US, it's 21. In the UK, it's less. So like you can go to clubs, smoke, fuck, whatever you want to do, right? 18. So that's why I call it out as an under 18s club. So this is a pre-adult club, and you couldn't go anywhere else in the UK and hear these DJs. Like you listen to them on the tape packs and you idolize them, and
Sure.
but you don't actually get to meet them. So this club was amazing, and I went there for a number of years, and then I ended up reaching out to the promoters and saying, hey, look, I would like to be involved in this. Conversations happened, yada yada yada. I ended up being a stage manager for that gig for like about a year, which was really cool. By that time I was now 18, and I was looking after the acts that were coming in, and yeah, it was phenomenal. And from there, then you really do start to embed yourself into the industry a lot, and it was probably around that time that I realized that the emceeing wasn't enough for me. Like I felt like I kind of hit the ceiling. I'm not saying that I was the best. I certainly wasn't, but I felt like I progressed as far as I was comfortable progressing with that. I hit my own limitation for that. I felt like I need a new challenge now. And so I thought, well, let's give DJing a go. So I found a cheap pair of 1210s, that someone was selling. I started to collect vinyl.
Right.
And, the rest is history.
It's history.
But yeah, that's my origin story.
No, that's super cool. Yeah, I was always curious about that. And it just, to me, it always seemed like the UK was a bit ahead, but I'm also a little bit older than you. And so, right around the same time, I was going to parties too, as you would say, a punter. I was still paying cover. I didn't know anybody cool enough to be on a list even, but yeah. And so let's fast forward then. You ended up doing that for a number of years, I'm assuming, a big part of your social kind of hobby, passion life, right? Then what took you to the States? And if I'm skipping any interesting parts between then and what brought you to the U.S., feel free to jump in. But what brought you over to the U.S.?
Couple of things.
Let me guess. It was either a job or a girl or a job and a girl.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to go into too much detail, but it was,
Totally.
in the right area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a few, I mean, but okay. So as fun as the DJing gig was, I never really made it, strong enough for it to be a full-time
Totally.
income. So of course, like I have a main job.
Yep.
That basically feeds my hobby.
Right.
Right. And that's how I, can pour buckets of money into what we do now. So I moved for those things.
Yeah.
And we are in 2023 now, and I moved out here in 2015.
Okay.
So I've been here long enough.
Got it. Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean because, if I look honestly at the mirror myself, I probably could have hustled more when I started DJing. I probably could have networked better when I started. There's things I could have done, but I also built a nice career for myself outside of that. And so here we are doing what we love to do, and we can afford to do it. And so who knows how it would have worked out. Right. But I'm with you. I kind of followed a similar path that way.
One of the cool things that I actually did shortly after, becoming a more regular DJ was approaching one of the local bars in the town I grew up and saying, hey, look, I'd like to put on a DJ talent night. One of the frustrating things when, you're a young DJ is you're not getting booked at any gigs.
No.
And I was like, well, there's two ways of doing that.
Right.
And the second way is you make your own events.
Right.
Right. And so you find a reason to get booked yourself. And so I thought if I set up a DJ talent night with some friends, then, they can come along and be judges. We can kind of interact with the industry a little bit. And it was a great night. So what we did is it benefited the bar because we pitched this for like one of their quiet nights of the week, like a Wednesday or something. It benefited the DJs because they got to have some kind of exposure. Yep. They brought their friends along who were buying drinks behind the bar. It was win-win all around. And
sure.
it was great. And this thing lasted for maybe, I don't know, like 6 or 7 weeks. We'd have like preliminary rounds, and it would go through to like a semi-final.
Oh, nice.
Grand final, all that nonsense. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. And I honestly felt like I was given a little bit of something back into the industry, into that community of, where they've given me so much that, undeservedly or not, I don't know, but I felt like I was able just to pay a little bit of that back. And that was pretty cool. And then off the back of that, the bar actually said, hey, look, guys, you seem to know what you're doing. Do you want to have like a regular gig here? And that was fine. That was great. And then that's, we got booked for that. I say it was myself and a guy called Jason. We ran a night called Gel Club. And it was just off the hook every single week. It's insane.
That sounds so fun.
Insane. We would, he knew some girls that would dress up in the, like the jumpsuits from prison, right?
Yes.
And, because they're jail clubs, so it's the whole kind of jail theme. And they go out kind of giving out flyers of the event, and we get people in. And we set up because he was a carpenter as well. So
I'm just laughing how this would not fly, the jail club at any day today. Like in this climate, like the jail. But I love it. It's
great. So we set up these bars. And so you got the DJ booth, like just kind of like there. And then we set up these kind of vertical poles and this to make it look like we're DJing from inside of a prison behind the bars. It's nuts, absolutely nuts.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, not every night was amazing. We had flops as well. We're human beings.
Everybody
sure.
who's thrown a night or DJ'd a gig has had
Yeah. And I just, I don't want it to make it seem like
isn't that the crack though? You have even if you have 1 out of 10 bangers, like that one is enough to fuel
That's
you.
right.
You may start to
right.
be getting burnt out at like 9 or 10, and then it happens again, and it's
it fuels you like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
let's do more of that.
exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
So
we did that. What else? Yeah, DJ'd in the old disused baths in, I believe it was Wimbledon. That was another crazy night. So,
So Wimbledon it's like an arena, or is it like
it's an area in London, where
okay.
the tennis happens.
Got it.
And there is a Wimbledon arena,
Okay.
and that is a venue. But we were playing at a different venue.
Got it.
In the Wimbledon area.
Got it.
And that was nuts, because that was that was just like the floor was all just these white tiles, the walls were all like white tiles, and because of the way that the bars were interconnected, you had like different arenas and different DJs playing, and it was just one of those amazing nights where, and you must have had them where like you put on any record and you just can't go wrong. The crowd were just there for it.
The vibe is thick, man. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And was it like a multitude of genres, or was there one specific genre that was kind of more prominent than the others when you were
okay, so
like at this multi-room sort of arena scenario?
I'm going to answer that question with a longer story. So to give some context into all of that, let's start maybe by answering that. So at that time, I would be playing funky house.
Okay.
So anything disco, anything slap bass, anything, kind of like that, right?
Yep.
Almost like kind of early Jack in House kind of stuff, right? The reason I would play that is, so years ago I was signed to a DJ agency. There was a DJ agency that reached out to me and said, "Hey, look, we want to get you on our books. Can we, get you some gigs?" And like, well, yeah, sure. And
they reached out to you.
Yeah, I
love it.
I'm like early 20s.
Sure.
I'm like feeling like a baller.
Right.
I mean, this agency wasn't great. It wasn't amazing, but the effort was there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And this guy, he put me in touch with a wedding DJ, right? So he needed some help with taking some photographs of him whilst he DJed. This was nothing to do with a DJ agency, but it was the agency that connected me to this guy.
Right.
So, hey, look, Paul, I was unemployed at the time. I could do with some money. And he said, look, for 50 quid, he just wants some help. Just take some pictures of him because he needs some self-promo pictures, right?
Sure.
And it's this guy, I won't call out his full name. I don't know if he wants the exposure, but this guy called Brian, I went to go and just, help him out. And he loved vinyl. He loved house music. He loved like funky house music, and the stuff that he would play at these events. And these would be like corporate events, the occasional wedding. It would be very kind of commercially acceptable events. He wasn't playing underground clubs or anything like far
Right.
from it. He was doing parties, and things like that, right? But he would always give it this solid funky house backbone, right?
Okay.
And then he'd still do the commercial stuff off
Sure.
the side of that, but and that's where my love of funky house evolved from in my early 20s. Is this is a new sound. This is a little bit slower than what I was listening to before. Prior to that, I was listening to UK garage or two-step, as it was called. And even then, before that, I went through a drum and bass phase, and then all that stems back to my happy hardcore phase. So I began with happy hardcore, evolved into drum and bass, went into two-step garage, and then found my feet with the funky house. So that's probably why a lot of the stuff that I play now, you'll hear it's all been heavily influenced by the piano lines that I loved from the happy hardcore. I love a good piano line.
You don't say.
the bass lines from the drum and bass that I used to
Right.
listen to, and the breaks, and maybe some of the choppy vocals as well. Actually, the choppy vocals would have come from the UK garage influence, and then a lot of the vocal stuff that I like now, that's all influenced from the funky house that I used to listen to. And so all those things have kind of merged into creating the style of house that I play now, which is amazingly this kind of culmination of all these different influences, plus you guys as well. And you know, the feedback that I get from my mix sessions that I play out, and it's just this kind of weird, beautiful, what I feel is a unique sound, and that's kind of what brought me here today.
Yeah, here you are.
Here I am.
Yeah, it's fun because I get a mix with you and Sangdo quite a bit, and it's like equally a challenge, but also really fun to feed into that and to set you guys up too, because I have my own sound with my own influences that came from my own experiences, right? But it is really cool to watch that, how you traverse those different genres, especially when you're first introduced to electronic music or dance music. And I think everybody goes through this like evolution. And I think the cool thing is, and I've seen it with you, I've seen it with Sangdo, myself, even now, that evolution still happens. Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. And I think that says a lot about, I talk about this a lot sometimes, like the music lovers versus like people doing it for reasons other than loving the music first and foremost. You know, kind of like you have that brother or that cousin who still listens to the grunge, in my case, that was the hot music in high school, because they just never evolved. They're so tied and anchored to that. So
right,
yeah, very cool. Well, and on that note, I think, you know, one of the other pieces that I want to do when we do these sort of interviews is give you an opportunity to mix, and an opportunity in a way where there's no like promoter pressure. There's no bar sales to worry about. There's no, you know, there's just, it's just like, what would Paul play if, you know, he just is doing his own thing, the music that he loves, the music that he would, you know, without any worry about judgment or anything like that. And it will be interesting to see how far afield some people go versus how true some other people stay to their sound. So I guess we'll come back to that in a second. But as far as what you're up to now, like into the present, you're in the US, you're partnered up with two of the most amazing DJs you've ever, I'm just kidding. But you're doing the Seattle House Mafia thing. I know you've also run a successful kind of radio show and stream for a long time that you've been doing with a pretty big fan base. Honestly, like, where's that going? What are you going to do with all that? And like, what's happening in the present for you?
That's interesting. So last week I found out I've been on YouTube for 14 years. I know, right?
Wow.
A long time.
That's a long time.
I'm an OG. I'm an old git.
Yeah.
So 14 years is a long time. And it's only recently really that the subscriber count has gone a little bit crazy. I don't know if 15,500 is a lot of subscribers on YouTube, but it's a number, and it's doing all right. So I have a studio mix that I put out once a month, or sooner if I can.
Right.
And that's my mix sessions series, and that's doing all right. And yes, to your comment about the radio show, so that's actually a fairly interesting story. So about let's say 5 years ago, the company that I used to work for, like every Friday afternoon we'd have a speaker set up in the office, like one of your kind of Mackies you got there.
Okay.
Just with a phone plugged into it and just playing like a Spotify playlist.
Right.
And anyone in the office could add whatever music they wanted to this playlist. And the idea is, hey, look, it's Friday, it's chilled. Let's all listen to each other's influences and get inspired to work and be creative, right? And so from that, there was a few people that kind of realized, well, some people are actually quite good at selecting tunes.
Yeah, and others not so much.
No, there's not so much. So some people, yeah. So we kind of, they kind of decide, okay, well, how about we just really hardcore curate this Spotify playlist and see what comes out of that, and almost like there are DJ selectors,
right?
And then fast forward a little bit, they actually reached out to me because they knew I was a DJ, and they said, do you want to come and be a DJ for this radio station and maybe bring a house music vibe, because they were all doing what's that genre called, like shoegazing, and they were doing indie and a lot of
singer-songwriter type stuff, and
stuff like and there wasn't any kind of electronic music there at all, so they wanted that edge. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come along and do that. And so what I ended up doing was recording a 1-hour show where I would introduce it myself, host it, run it, manage it, and it would always begin with an introduction. It would begin with a mix, then there would be a track of the week, then there would be another piece of mix, and then I would do a throwback track, so like an old school vintage tune that I would play that I used to love, and then like a locals listing of like what's happening in Seattle, where should people go this weekend, yada yada yada. And that was fun. That was fun for a couple of years. Then COVID happened, and then there weren't any listings to talk about anymore. So the structure changed on that, and it was just, look, I'm just going to have a mix. I still kept throwback track. I still kept record of the week.
Yep.
And I still kept it as a hosted show. And that ran for a couple of years. I brought it up to episode 150. I got 150 episodes in the bag, and then I just knocked it on the head. The reason why I began that radio show, Platform 6 is what it was called, by the way. I began that as a challenge for myself. I thought, well, can I actually commit to doing this every single week for, I don't know, the original goal was just maybe like, I'll just do it for a year.
Yeah.
See what happens. And after a year of committing to doing that, what I realized was, I love doing this. This is great. It gave me a much needed creative outlet that I really wasn't having in other areas of my life. And so, I was like, yeah, well, let's go for another year. Let's go. And then that year came around, and I don't know, a third year, it sounded fun, but it started to become a bit of a chore rather than fun. And so I got to like episode, I think 120. I was like, yeah, no, I think I've had, because I thought I was going to stop at episode 100, but I was still having too much fun then.
Right.
But then I got to episode 120, give or take 6 months later. And I was like, no, I don't have time or passion for this anymore. And what I would do is, in order to fuel the music for those shows, I would pull from different promo lists that I'm on.
Okay.
That helped to keep the costs down, because if you are having to come up with brand new music every week,
$1.49 a track, or $2 a track, right?
It's not a lot individually, but you add all that up, plus all the studio stuff that I do and the mixes elsewhere. It was like, all right, how can I get this to be as cost effective as possible? And I'm signed up to all these promo mailing lists. The downside to that is although you're getting music sent for free, the quality was not that great, and I'll be spending a lot of time just scrubbing through and going, well, no, that's shit. And honestly, it would be like finding a diamond in the rough. Only about 2 or 3% of everything I listened to was actually even playable,
right? Let
alone really, really good. And towards the end of the 150 episode run, I was getting mixed feedback, shall we say, of what is this fucking shit? Go back to the mixes you were doing before, because I published this on my YouTube page, and on my YouTube page it's got my studio sessions, it's got my it's got my live gigs on there, but it's also got Platform 6, and so my fan base is used to hearing the studio sessions,
right?
And though these all studio sessions are taken from Tracksource, Beatport, right?
Tracks you chose and curated for yourself, right?
Yeah, but also by artists that are a little bit more established, rather than just giving out free promos to try and get some traction in the industry. So, so I was glad to kind of have that as an experience. Glad to have, get closure on that. Yeah. Love closure. Closure's great.
I know. But you don't like control or any kind of, none.
I cannot watch things on Netflix that are a series. So my wife goes to me, hey Paul, do you want to start watching this thing? Like, sure. How long is it? And she goes,
16 seasons.
16 seasons. Just get me to that final. Anyway, so I got some closure on that, and that's fine. The current Mix Session Studio series that's going really well. I'm still enjoying that. Yeah. I'm doing that as and when I can. I still force myself to get one mix out a month. There was a time when when a lot of stuff was going on in my life, as well as doing the Platform 6, I just didn't have time for doing any mix sessions.
Right.
And I had about a 6 or 7 month forced break from that. And I wanted to get back into doing that. And I really want to commit to releasing at least every single month from those things. So, yeah, I mean, in the absence of any kind of live bookings, it's been quite a change to go from the places that would play in the UK and Europe to then coming out here. And I'll be the first to admit, honestly, I had a ton of arrogance when I moved out here, and the expectations that I had as, you know, a relatively successful DJ in the UK, I thought, I'll come out here, you know, I'm British, call blimey governor, I've got an accent, I'll get booked, right? And I had a hard knock back down to reality. Yeah. The industry said, no, you can take your accent and fuck right off. Yeah. And that was probably one of the best humbling experiences I've ever had. It gave me that kind of bump that I needed to just to calm myself down a bit and go, no, you're not amazing everywhere around the world. You still need to earn your stripes. And I think this is something that's very important in this industry to any DJ that's trying to come up through the ranks. Yeah, I mean, sure, you might be able to get a flash in the pan success, but what's really going to give longevity is, you know, that hard work ethic and doing the network events that we spoke about earlier and putting that time in and doing these things. You know, you can't shortcut success. You really can't. So, I mean, I'm glad that happened, because then that helped me to kind of take a step back and move more into doing like Twitch streaming and YouTube live streams and focusing on a radio show and like all the other bits and pieces that go around live performances. And then, you know, I always kept an eye out for DJ competitions, and I entered a few of those. I did really well at a Q nightclub competition as well. That was fun. But yeah, just anything that I can do, because bookings is, let's just call it political and leave it there right now.
I know.
And so, this goes all the way back to like when I was first starting out DJing and running those DJ competitions and, you know, setting up those events where I would book myself to play. One of the reasons why, like, if it's hard to find a gig, you just create events and opportunities for yourself. And I think that's what the three of us are doing right now is, you know, we are creating these opportunities for ourselves. We are creating this group. We are creating this brand, this presence that no one else in the industry is doing right now, to my knowledge. And we are creating those opportunities for ourselves. And I'm just excited to what the future could look like.
And it's fucking fun.
Yeah, man.
It's fun, right? Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah. Well, that's what you sort of answered what my next question was going to be, but like, you know, money not an issue, time not an issue. I know this is unrealistic, but like sort of that nirvana, like where would you like to be with the music, the DJ, and maybe even some production, whatever? Like what would be, if you could write it, you know, the future, what would that look like for you in an ideal scenario?
I like the idea of playing a big club, but I think I prefer the reality of a smaller venue.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know, 100 or less, because in my experience, the quality of guest or punter or patron, the quality of patron is a lot higher.
Yeah.
People come for the music, and they dedicate themselves to really enjoying what it is that you're putting out there. Like I could, you know, be on the main stage of a huge festival, but if 70-80% of those people are, you know, on their phone or looking at something else, I'm not going to have any fun.
They're festivaling, man. They're like, yeah.
Which is fine. Hey, you do what you want to do at a festival, but my satisfaction doesn't come from the size of the stage.
Yeah.
It comes from the satisfaction of the patron. And I feel that is part of my job as a DJ. I'm not here to play music for me. I'm here to play it for other people. It just so happens that my musical taste and what I like happens to also align with what other people want to hear. And then it's now my responsibility to, you know, craft that journey and to, you know, give them a good night, right? That's what I learned growing up. This is what I learned at the Club Empire days. My first ever kind of experience with clubbing is you'd have a warm-up DJ that would come on, and they would play all the kind of happy vocal piano stuff at the start. And then there might be like the second or third DJs, they would come on and the music would get a little bit more chunky. Then the main act would come on and just absolutely tear the place apart. Then the final DJ, like the closeout DJ, would come on, and that might be like some weird stuff or maybe some tranquil stuff. And you'll hear exactly that same progression in every single mix that I do, in every single thing that I bring to the table, because that has stuck with me since day one. Is you start with the happier kind of vocally stuff, and you slowly progress through, and you get harder and harder, and you can hear that in every single mix I think I've ever produced. That's always been my approach to DJing. You never knew that, did you?
No. I I saw some patterns. I heard some patterns, but I never necessarily knew that it was as conscious as it is. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm way more seat of my pants, as you know, and sometimes it's brilliant, and sometimes it's a fucking car accident.
But that's the gamble, and that's fine. And I think the times I've heard you play it and it's come together well, it's blown me away. It's been really amazing. Yeah. I think from my perspective, the times it doesn't go quite right, I think that would stress me out too much.
Yeah,
I think it really would.
I think I get off on the stress sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I have to do some reflection on that. But anyway, this is about you. Mm-hmm. And I think with that note, I'd love you to have a mix. I mean, I got this great studio set up, because I have a real job and I'm a bit of a gear whore. And so what I've done is this Seattle House Mafia HQ is I've set up the kind of studio or the kind of DJ setup that I think is ideal to play on in a house or a club or whatever. I want it to be a good experience for you, but I also want you to have that liberty and that freedom to play whatever you want to play for your mix, because there's no fucking pressure besides the internet listening.
Yeah, let's get him.
But yeah, go have a mix, man, and let's see what comes out.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
excited for it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, of course. Let's get it.
All right.